Welcome to First Person Defender. Real people put into realistic self-defense training scenarios.
These are real scenarios.
Hey, give me your money.
The role player does not know what's going to happen. We go through the first scenario, see how they handle it, and then we pick one thing that they could have done to increase their survivability, train it a little bit, and then run them through a similar scenario.
Each weapon is loaded with Simunition FX marking cartridges, the most realistic, non-lethal alternative to live ammunition. Simunition is the closest thing to the real deal.
Once you feel the pain penalty once, you don't want to feel it again.
For this type of force-on-force training, role players are required to wear protective gear.
Come on, hit me.
It is as real as it gets. Heart rate's elevated, their respiratory rate's elevated, their adrenaline is dumping into their blood. They are scared and amped up.
I got a gun! Back off!
Get out of my house!
My name is James Lawson from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I have probably a moderate level of training in terms of defensive pistol. I shot competitively in IDPA for 3 summers, and then I've taken a 2-day introductory pistol course, Defensive Pistol 101.
What we have planned for James today is that he's going to encounter someone being victimized. We're hoping that James will try to intervene at some point.
Earlier on, we talked to James and found out that he was not going to get involved in any scenario that he didn't have a direct link to. We decided that we'd have to set up a scenario where he would be forced to be drawn in. You can use your weapon in defense of your life or someone else's life. So we're going to try to draw him in the defense of someone else's life.
Benny and Louie discussed the setup and explained it to Ryan, who will be playing the female victim in the scenario.
The problem is in this scenario is if he doesn't interject to save a life, he might lose. He's not only going to lose that life, but he's possibly going to lose his own.
It's really hard to predict how you're going to act, but I'm looking forward to running through the scenario and learning more.
With everyone in place, it's time to start the scenario.
You're going to exit this location, you're going to be walking to your vehicle, which is parked right over there. We gave him direction where he had to go to get to his vehicle, and basically that's all we told him. Hey, you're leaving this location, you're going to your vehicle so you can leave. He had no clue of what he was about to encounter.
So I walked out the door and I had a person acknowledge me as I walked past him. I turned to the left, walked down the street, and I could hear some yelling.
I don't understand you. Why are you acting this way?
I had Ryan at gunpoint, and we were giving her commands like we were going to kill her.
I'm gonna kill you if you don't straighten up. Why? Why should I leave you alone?
Leave me alone, please.
As he proceeded towards his vehicle, he immediately saw a female on her knees, and she was screaming, for help, and saw a male individual standing over her.
As I walked up, given that he already had a gun out, I went ahead and immediately drew my gun, kept it close, walked up and tried to identify who he was.
Hey! No, I love you.
He did a good job of utilizing distance and concealment to try to get a better idea of what he was fixing to walk into.
I'm gonna kill you if you don't straighten up.
Hey, what are you doing? I got a pretty good impression that he was not a good guy, almost immediately by the way he was yelling and screaming back at me.
What are you doing? What you involved in this?
At that moment, I put the gun on him.
And that's when the gun battle erupted.
Black Ops, the baddest tactical 1911 on the planet.
If you need a gun, you need XS Sights. They give you an advantage in high-stress, low-light situations. For more information, go to xssights.com. If you need a gun, you need XS Sights.
I got a pretty good impression that he was not a good guy, almost immediately by the way he was yelling and screaming back at me.
What are you doing? What you involved in this?
At that moment, I put the gun on him.
And that's when the gun battle erupted.
He started shooting, moved around the truck, so I moved back away, tried to keep moving. the whole time. As I was shooting, the firearm malfunctioned, so then I moved off back behind the building to try to clear the malfunction.
I was unsure of what his next move was, so I had taken up a position a little bit further away from him to try to draw him in. I'd shot a couple more times and he didn't ever come back out. I was unaware that his gun had ever went down at any point in time. I didn't know if he had picked up an additional piece of cover, and I knew that I didn't want to come blindly around that corner, so I decided at that point in time that it's best to disengage. All things being equal, I think I'm gonna go ahead and run away. I'm leaving.
All right, index.
Overall, James did well, and the plan to draw him in worked like a charm.
You know, you come around a corner and a guy's got a gun to someone else. You don't know what the situation is, who the person is that's on the ground, or who the person is with the gun, whether they're good, bad, anything else. So you want him to identify himself and at least say why. I mean, you tell yourself that you're not going to get involved, but
when you put somebody in immediate danger to where you see that their seriously bodily harm could occur or death could occur, then the instinct of that person, having a little bit of knowledge, will cross that line to try and help someone out.
James deciding to intervene was good, but in doing so, he exposed some things that needed to be addressed.
When you moved over to the position of concealment here behind the vehicle, you did a pretty good job at first, and what it looked like is when you pointed your gun at me, you started kind of moving out, which comes from a lot of square range training. He picked his gun up, pointed it at me, and for whatever reason, when he pointed at me, he stepped out from behind that cover and concealment, trying to square up on targets, which is we generally see with people with a lot of square range training. People think that they have to be directly in front of that target. So you started to kind of move out, which is where I think you got shot.
Now it's time to head to the range to discuss how James can more effectively utilize cover to help minimize exposure.
What we're going to do is we're going to utilize this position right here as cover for us. Remember, cover stops bullets. Concealment hides us from an adversary, so he can't find a location. What you'll see downrange is we have two targets set in depth. They had different distances, and we're going to utilize that in our favor by utilizing the angles that we talked about earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to utilize this blue gun, this training gun, so I will be pointing it downrange. I won't be pointing it at you. I will point it at the target, so if you'll stand left or right of that target. The things that you'll obviously be able to see is, of course, the gun, my hands, and my eyes. But what you shouldn't see is any part of the rest of my body, which I'm going to try to conceal my vitals behind this cover that we have. So like we were saying, this cardboard right here is going to simulate cover. It's going to run all the way down to the ground. What I want you to pay close attention to is that you're not going to see any vitals in my body. My support side foot, since I'm shooting on the support side of this cover, is going to be forward, so that way I don't get knocked off kilt. And what will happen is now that my weapon's up, you should not be able to see any part of my body. But now as I start pressing forward on that support side leg, you notice how it's bending, but now you can see the weapon, the eyes, and the gun. Can you see any vital portions of my body right now?
No.
But right now I'm able to get sight picture side alignment on that intended target, but yet I'm still maximizing use of this cover. So now you see how the angles and the layers come into play with this. All right, so what I would like for you to do is if you would come over here now, here's the blue gun. If you would just come and get behind your cover. Remember when we go to flex, we're going to flex at the knee. We're going to establish grip and everything while we're behind cover, and now the only thing that's going to assist us is by using that knee pushing forward. As you can see right now, is if I came and I pushed on you, you'd still be in a good stable stance. You wouldn't get knocked off kill, and that way you should not be able to have any of your vitals exposed. So I'm going to walk down here real quick. So right now you should have sights on target, muzzle on target. What I'm going to ask for you is that you bend it at your hips. Instead of bending at your hips, because I had that hip bone, remember when we talked about the pelvic girdle, flex that knee just a little bit more. There you go. And now have your whole body just kilt back in. Your muzzle is always going to be out past that barricade, because we don't want to shoot that barricade or that cover, because then we'll have spalling come back to us. And from there you should have good target acquisition and sight picture on this target.
Yep.
You should be able to engage it good. Right now I still don't have any vitals of your body, which is the good thing. Right now what you had to give me though is eyes, hands, and weapon system for me to engage. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Now it's time to go hot and give it a try with live fire.
As you can see, utilizing that cover is very simple for you to just change your feet and be able to keep that same balanced stance, a combat stance, and stay on keel from the strong side to the support side. Your shots are where they needed to be, and now you can see that with the angles, your adversary doesn't have much of a target to shoot at you, but yet you had entire center mass of your adversary.
Right.
Outstanding job.
When the bond between hand and gun feels as true as a perfectly placed shot, it's not by accident, it's by design. M&P, advanced by design.
Nosler Defense ammunition is loaded up front with the bonded performance line of bonded core defense bullets. Professionals trust their next move to Nosler Defense.
First Person Defender, brought to you by XS Sights, Smith & Wesson, Nosler, Crimson Trace, Simunition, and Remington. The second scenario will be set up similar to the first, but this time, instead of Louis holding Ryan at gunpoint, the guys decided to throw James a curveball.
That Ryan and I are going to be arguing, and there'll be no presentation of any firearms, and what is going to happen at that point, if he does insert himself and decide that he wants to interrupt mine and Ryan's argument, we're both going to turn and basically just execute him. If he chooses to call the police and not insert himself, and just kind of continue moving on by, at what time it's going to happen, the scenario's just going to index and we'll end it.
As James makes his way out of the building, the scenario seems to start out the same as the first.
The f you don't know what I'm talking about. I saw you talking to him.
And I come down a street and I can see a man yelling and screaming at someone.
I saw you talking to him. Why are you going to do that? Why are you going to act this way?
I didn't do anything.
Yes, you
James
did.
decides to make his way around the building to get a better assessment of the situation.
Talking to the guy.
I was originally expecting to be able to prick him up off the right side off my peripheral vision. I was even trying to figure out, I'm like, man, he's taking a long time to get here. I said, he must be crawling.
I saw you talking to him.
Yeah.
Yes, you were.
No, I wasn't.
Yes, you
So I circled around to the side of him, peeking around the side of a building, and I see a man that's, just yelling and screaming at a woman that he's got pinned up against. She's got her back against the wall.
were talking to him.
But I realized that I didn't see a weapon at the scene in any way. For all I knew, it was just two people that were arguing because they were upset over gas money or whatever else.
He realized there was no weapon involved, and he was able to at least try to get dialogue.
Oh, you women are crazy. Excuse me? What are you doing? What the f is your problem?
My questioning was not received very well by the gentleman that was yelling at the woman.
What the f are you? You okay? Huh? Man, mind your own f***ing business.
He wasn't backing down. He never did tell me that he was going to call the police, or never did give me any reason to make me want to leave.
Stay back.
I decided at that point in time to up the ante and just see how he would react if I produced a gun.
Man, f you.
After an intense firefight, James decides to retreat to safety.
All right, index. What do you think about that one?
It was pretty good until I got shot in the face.
Well, a couple things I can tell you is that I realized this time is that, one, you recognized there was some kind of incident going on, but you weren't sure. So instead of just exposing yourself, you put something between you and that incident. You knew your objective was to get to your vehicle. Sometimes you don't have to take the shortest path to it, you know what I mean? You kind of instigated that one by trying to get involved on something that, you might have been best suited by calling the police.
Sure.
I like how you checked on her well-being, but like he's telling you, it has nothing to do with you. You're not, don't mind your business. She's not asking for help, They're just verbally arguing.
Just angry folks.
Just angry folks, exactly.
So the second time through the scenario, I got involved in something that was definitely none of my business.
The best confrontation to have is the one we never have. If we can avoid those fights, then we win all the time. Whereas if we involve ourselves in a confrontation, we stand the chance to lose.
What I like though is what you took from the training from the range and utilized the corner of that building as cover. He utilizes some of the techniques and tactics that we talked about earlier from the first scenario and that we implemented on the range. He did a lot of things that weren't taught to him. He decided to retreat. He decided to now try to find better cover. He moved from one position to the other. He didn't become stationary in a standing target or a stationary target. He made his shots count when he needed to.
I think from our perspective, James did an excellent job learning the different teaching points that we learned between the range session and the first scenario, and he really put a lot of those points into application in the second scenario.
The primary takeaway in terms of everyday carry was simply that one magazine of ammunition may not be enough for a given situation. You have no idea what you're going to run into or what you have to be prepared for. So it's an equipment change, I think, is the first part of it. But the other thing is having a really solid understanding of what you need to be involved in and what you don't when you're carrying a gun. Just because you're carrying a gun doesn't mean that you have to be a savior in every situation.
You shot me square between the eyes.